In 1947, Pakistan was divided into west and east, separated by 1,600 kilometers of India. Despite the West's massive size, East Pakistan held the demographic majority. Yet the government extracted 62% of revenue from the East, allocating 70% of the budget to the West. This extraction of wealth was paired with a concerted effort to erase the local culture. The central government mandated Urdu as the sole official language, completely disregarding the native Bengali spoken by the overwhelming majority in the East. The Bengali population took to the streets to protect their language. When police opened fire on a student protest in 1952, killing 5 people, linguistic pride permanently turned into a fight for survival. The immense physical distance between the two halves of the country was compounded by extreme economic and cultural exploitation. A unified state built on these conditions faced an inevitable structural collapse. The pushback against the central government found its voice in Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. His Awami League party campaigned heavily for regional autonomy, demanding that East Pakistan control its own economy and resources. This parliamentary seat chart shows the stunning result of the 1970 national elections. The Awami League secured 167 out of 313 total seats, a clear, undeniable democratic majority, and they won every single one of those seats in East Pakistan. Facing a government that would now be entirely controlled by Bengali leaders, West Pakistani officials, specifically President Yahya Khan and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, simply refused to hand over power. Instead, they chose to suspend the National Assembly entirely. By intentionally overriding the democratic mandate of their own majority population, West Pakistani leadership stripped away their political legitimacy. The only lever of power they had left was military force. On the night of March 25, 1971, the Pakistani army launched Operation Searchlight. This was a targeted, systematic extermination campaign aimed directly at Bengali politicians, students, and intellectuals. The violence rapidly escalated into a full-scale genocide. Over the next 8 months, up to 3 million civilians were murdered by the military. To escape the slaughter, 10 million desperate civilians abandoned their homes and crossed the border, creating a massive, overwhelming refugee crisis in neighboring India. In direct response to the military crackdown, East Pakistan officially declared its independence as Bangladesh. An overwhelmed India stepped in, actively training and arming the local Bengali guerrilla resistance, known as the Mukti Bahini. West Pakistan attempted to use mass civilian extermination to solve a domestic political dispute. That decision backfired completely, forcing India's hand and turning an internal fracture into an active international conflict. Facing heavily armed resistance, Pakistan attempted a preemptive strike on December 3rd. Operation Chengiz Khan bombed 11 Indian air bases simultaneously, officially triggering full-scale war. India immediately retaliated on land. During the famous Battle of Longewala, a vastly outnumbered company of just 120 Indian soldiers managed to hold their ground against an advancing force of 2,000 Pakistani troops and heavy armor. The offensive immediately extended to the sea. Under Operation Trident, the Indian Navy aggressively struck the port of Karachi, crippling Pakistan's maritime trade and setting their critical oil reserves on fire. Pakistan attempted a covert underwater counterattack, but it failed completely when their flagship submarine, the PNS Ghazi, was intercepted and sunk off the coast. By executing perfectly coordinated strikes across land, air, and sea, Indian forces dismantled Pakistan's critical infrastructure. Within a matter of days, they neutralized Pakistan's ability to sustain the war effort. Facing rapid, total military collapse, Pakistan reached out to their Cold War ally, the United States, pleading for immediate intervention. The U.S. responded by deploying Task Force 74 into the Bay of Bengal. Led by the world's largest nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the fleet was sent to directly intimidate India into backing down. India countered through geopolitics. They invoked a freshly signed mutual defense treaty with the Soviet Union, who quickly dispatched their own nuclear-armed submarine battle group to trail and intercept the Americans. The presence of Soviet ships neutralized the American threat, forcing the US and UK fleets to withdraw. A regional fight for independence had briefly escalated to the brink of a global nuclear standoff, leaving Pakistan entirely isolated. Back in Dhaka, the remaining Pakistani military was trapped. Without supply lines, air support, or international rescue, their total collapse was certain. On December 16, 1971, Lieutenant General A.A.K. Niazi unconditionally surrendered 93,000 Pakistani troops to the joint Indian and Bengali forces. It was the largest military surrender the world had seen since World War II. Following the surrender, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was released from a West Pakistani prison. He returned to Dhaka to serve as the first president of a newly sovereign Bangladesh. The new geopolitical map was officially cemented with the signing of the Simla Agreement in 1972, and the United Nations formally recognized Bangladesh in 1974. The 1971 war demonstrated a clear geopolitical reality. Drawing national borders based entirely on a shared religion cannot hold a country together if the linguistic, cultural, and economic rights of its citizens are violently denied.